Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our second virtual table talk with the superintendent. And the last time we did this, it was incredibly successful, and we decided that this might be the way that we start going in the future. I know it's a lot more convenient for folks to be able to get online. And tell you what, if we were trying to do it in real time right now at East Social like we've been doing, they wouldn't let us all in. There's 26 people in here right now, which is great. So a lot of familiar faces. I'm Todd Robinson. I'm the communications director for the school district. And I will be occasionally distracted, as I am right now, as I'm looking over and continuing to admit people into the room. Down at the bottom, there is a chat feature. And if there's anything that you want to say or a question you want to ask, if you will either type it into the chat and I'll read it, or just say, I have a question, then I can unmute you and then you can ask your question. Just ask for a little bit of grace because there's a lot of folks on here and I might not see all of them immediately. And still people joining. We're at 30 now. So yeah, if we can just do that, and everybody when they come in is muted. If you have something to say whenever you start, if you say I have a question and you want to ask the question instead of typing it, you should be able to just unmute yourself. I will try to also keep an eye, and if somebody's struggling with that, I should be able to unmute you. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Thomas.
All right. Well, good morning, everyone. It's good to see at least most of your faces on the screen. So thank you for joining us this morning. Lots happening in the school district. Every weekend when I talk to my mother who lives in Brownsville, she asks me, why do you keep going to the office? What's there? All the kids are gone. I said, Mom, if you only knew what happens behind the scenes. She's 86 years old, so she doesn't always understand the nature of the work. So we are continuing again to work with our teachers, work with our administrators, and trying to keep the virtual teaching and learning going. We've got one more week of assignments that will roll out, and most of the assignments rolling out this week will be of enrichment in nature, so that teachers start wrapping up and then chasing any work that still hasn't been done from the quote of regular virtual learning. And then we'll be closing up officially for the school year. I guess one of the hot topics right now, last week, the commissioner in his weekly call to 1,200 superintendents across the state of Texas gave us all something to think about, and it went viral with all the teaching organizations and administrator organizations. He was really asking superintendents to think about their school calendars for the coming year. And one of the data points that he used to have us consider looking at the 2020-21 school year is the summer slide that naturally happens when you close down for 12 to 15 weeks. But more importantly, the learning gaps that we know are going to exist in kids. And for our vulnerable populations, those gaps were obviously already there, and they have only widened with not having that face-to-face time with teachers. For Hutto ISD, we're not ready to make any changes to the school calendar yet. I can tell you that the instructional team from a district viewpoint is looking at all the options. How will we address keeping pace with the regular curriculum, but how will we address learning gaps, particularly in mathematics? And the commissioner presented some pretty compelling data of what's happening with mathematics learning right now and with reading instruction. So we've got a lot of preparation to do, and all of that work right now is taking place behind the scenes. So that's kind of my world at the moment. Looking at already, we know 1920 is pretty much complete, and we're looking ahead to what 2020 and 21 will look like. One fact we know for sure is that we're not going to come back to school the way we knew it. But what it would look like in August is still the $1 million question. So that's part of our work right now. So I'll open it up to questions you may have about your world and your situation right now, or any other compelling hot questions for you that you may have.
And for those of you that joined late, if you have a question, you can type it into the chat, or you can just say, I have a question, and I'll, if you raise your hand, I might not see you because there's so many people on here. It's on multiple screens now, but just say, I have a question. If you want to ask it, then I'll just unmute you. Thank you, Ashley. Ashley Ballstead, y'all are doing a wonderful job. Much appreciated. Thank you. We appreciate the appreciations, definitely. David Avila says, when will final grades be posted on Skyward for seniors?
Dr. Sermati, can you answer that one?
I don't know exactly for seniors, but I'll tell you, I might be able to find that out while we're on the chat. But we just gave guidance to teachers this week on how to enter final grade. And we understand our computer systems that we use were not set up to suddenly change to a non-numeric system mid-year. So it's a little bit more complicated than you would imagine. But I think we've got it set up and ready to go. I can tell you that all the final grades should be entered no later than May 29th. Obviously, seniors are a little bit different spot. So let me find out if the high school had a special time that they were wanting to get those grades in there. But everybody by May 29th for sure.
All right, thank you for addressing that question.
So I tell you what, Dr. Sermani, if we can make a note, once we get the answer, let's put it in our parent communication next week. That way everybody can get the benefit of that response.
Cheney. We knew Cheney would have a question. Hey, Cheney.
Yeah, but it might surprise you. This one's very not really in my wheelhouse. Just wondering about graduation. I saw that tickets were going to be limited to 2. Are we going to be live streaming that for friends and family, or perhaps partnering with the Globe to have a viewing or something like that for folks?
Yes, we will be live streaming it. And as soon as we have the link for that, it'll be on a YouTube link. And as soon as we get the link, we will send that out to folks. But yes, absolutely, we will be live streaming it.
Awesome.
Shelley says, is there any insight available yet as to what the possible options are for a revised structure in the fall as it relates to what is being considered, whether that includes multiple shifts, altered classroom layouts, a hybrid of homeschool classrooms, or otherwise?
Yes to all of the above. So not only are we looking at the school calendar, but we're also looking at, depending on what direction we get, so we talked about the fact that we could be allowed to come back to school on a regular schedule with the understanding that we've got to have a plan and a calendar ready to go if we continue to have intermittent closures. We're also talking about plans for alternate shifts. If the governor says you can come back but only at 50% capacity, then obviously we'll have to create schedules where we only have half of the kids in a school building. And what that will look like, we don't know. We have to think about our families, and we have to think about our structure. Could that be by, bringing in kids by grade level? Well, that's not really the best option for families. Families would probably love to be able to send all of the family unit at once. And so, yes, we are thinking about all of that. and just laying it out so that we have a plan ready to execute depending on the direction that we're given by our governor. Our hope is that we're allowed to come back to our regular schedule and with intermittent plans for closure, and how we continue to roll seamlessly if we're told we have to close for a couple of weeks. But then again, also preparing for only being able to bring in children on a part-time basis.
Okay, Chris Elquist asks, has there been any talk of class schedules going to AB day to limit hallway interaction?
Yes, that's the other option too, especially at the secondary level, A days and B days for kids. So that's another one of the considerations that we're looking at. We're not ruling anything out. It just kind of depends on what type of capacity we're allowed to bring in. But at our high school, you know, our 9th grade center is not going to open until August of 2021. So we already knew, even before the pandemic and even before closure, that this coming year at the high school was going to be extremely crowded because there are going to be an excess of 2,300 kids, and that building was only built for 2,000. So we, again, we already knew that we were going to have an overcrowded situation at the high school. So we might have to develop a plan where the high school goes to A and B days. But again, it's all preliminary, but I love your questions and the fact that all of us are on the same page, because we know that we're going to have something ready to go.
Okay. Next one is Mary Standard doesn't have a question. She just wanted to see all of our faces. Hi, Mary.
Hi, Mary.
Mary is the awesome secretary of Hutto High School, by the way. And if you don't know Mary, she's the one that she keeps everything together at Hutto High School. Katisha says, courses in high school are a prerequisite for the next upcoming year. For example, if a student is taking algebra this year, how will you ensure to set them up for success in geometry in the fall? How will you accelerate coverage of the missed parts of the curriculum once students return?
So I'll let Dr. Sermani pipe in with this one, but that's part of what we're doing, looking at the calendar as well. We know that kids, again, especially in mathematics, are going to have learning gaps. And once we get everybody back and we're able to do a thorough assessment of where our kids are, then we can we kind of make intermittent plans to address those gaps for kids so that they can continue learning what they need to learn. But Dr. Sermani, if you can jump in. I think, again, that's been part of our thinking the last couple of weeks.
That's the million-dollar question for everybody in all across the country is, how do you catch up kids who have missed? And what makes it so difficult is you got some kids that excelled in online learning. You got the majority of kids who, yeah, they got behind some, but they're going to catch up with just a few adjustments to the curriculum. And then you have kids that just flat out need more time to catch up because they either had no way of accessing online, regardless what we worked with them, you know, a host of reasons. So there's no easy one size fits all. So I can tell you some no-brainers that we're definitely going to do. I call the no-brainers is that we have to adjust the curriculum to start the school year to help the majority of kids who didn't get the last 6 weeks of math as strong as we wanted to. And that's one that we've already started working on. The hard one is, where do we fit in extra days for kids that are behind? And just that change in the curriculum isn't going to be enough. I don't have an answer, but we have ideas everywhere from starting early to having an extensive summer school next summer to having periods where kids come in while other kids are at home. There's a whole lot of ideas out there we're working through, and they kind of, you have to take them in tandem when you're looking at the school calendar, because there's only X number of days that teachers are on contract, and anything beyond that, you're adding money and cost to the budget. And so you've got to kind of work through all that in concert. Not to mention the wild card, which is when are we allowed to have kids in school? What happens if we shut down again? And all that's out there as well. I'll tell you specifically, just because you happen to talk about algebra and geometry, the good thing, if you have a child going from algebra to geometry, you can actually take geometry without knowing algebra and still be pretty okay. Actually, those contents don't overlap as much as you think they do. However, that being said, I got a math person that's working on that just in case, because I'm not the math expert. But so algebra and geometry, they happen to not overlap as much. So your kid might be in a better place than some of the others.
They will need it for algebra too. Yep.
Next question, what is the plan if we are allowed to come back with 100% of the students in terms of extra safety precautions?
So as far as extra safety precautions, one of the topics that we talked about in cabinet last week, and cabinet includes all of the principals and all of the directors, anybody who's a decision maker at the district level, is that we have to take cleanliness and keeping ourselves safe. Everybody's going to have to take responsibility for it. In a given elementary school with 800 kids, we have 3 custodians. And to think that 3 human beings are going to be able to clean and wipe down every single surface several times a day is just not realistic. We already know that we're going to have to equip every classroom in every building with extra cleaning supplies and extra wipe down materials, and then we as the adults on the campus are going to have to take responsibility for that. You know, after every group of kids that comes into a classroom, we're going to have to wipe it down. We're going to have to continuously wipe down doorknobs and door handles, and we're going to have to really drill it into kids that they've got to constantly use hand sanitizer anytime there's a passing period or anytime there's a change in their environment. I think that's just part of the landscape. We were already doing a lot of that with our kids because of the flu season. Our school nurses, parents may not have known it, but we had already been doing a lot of that education behind the scenes to fight off the flu, but we're going to have to be even more intentional now. So we are going to pad our budgets and stock our buildings and our classrooms with everything that our teachers and our staff need to sanitize as much as we can. But again, it's going to be a whole community effort to take responsibility for that. If we have to have kids eat lunch in their classrooms, we will do that. As far as, you know, running through the cafeteria and picking up lunches, our cafeteria staff, as a matter of fact, is already talking about how the meals are going to be different, and buying those styrofoam containers and where you pack lunches like you would like in a to-go fashion, and a teacher or somebody picks up the lunch in the cafeteria, rolls it over to the classroom, and the kids eat in the classroom. As far as, you know, being outside for recess, we're going to have to really look at all. I mean, yes, there's just so many logistics that you would work out, but our people are already thinking about that and keeping children separated as much as possible. Even if we come back with 50% capacity, you know, sending kids out to recess like we used to know it before is going to have to look very different. But we can't do away with recess. Kids need to be outside, they need the sunshine, and they need to work off their energy. So we can't keep them confined for the 7 or 8 hours that we have them. It's just not possible. It's not human. It's inhumane.
Okay, next question. Cheney says, what is the communication plan from the district during the summer? It's been so wonderful to get weekly emails, but so much is still in the air. So how will decisions about returning to school be communicated, and at what frequency? I guess I can speak to that a little bit. And, you know, I think one of the many really good decisions we made early on in this whole thing was that we decided we're going to send weekly communications out because we knew that there would constantly be updates about things and things would be changing. So I know sometimes those communications, those weekly communications, are really long to read. But we've tried to continue. We've kept the things in them weekly that are we need to continue to reinforce, and then added new things as we need to. I think once we get into the summer, we certainly are not going to continue to send an email every single week, because there won't be a need to do that. But certainly as things change, as we have new information, we will email that out. We'll certainly put it on our social media, on our website, things like that. But if it's something that's really breaking news type of thing, in terms of a schedule change or something that our parents really need to know immediately, we'll kind of hit all of our channels, including phone call. We'll send out a phone blast if we need to. We try to avoid the phone calls, except for times of true urgent situations, just because we don't want those to then be ignored when they are important. And if we send phone calls all the time, then they tend to get ignored. So, but all that, I don't know if I really answered your question, Cheney, other than just to say, and if something really big happens, we will definitely let y'all know. We won't keep sending the weekly emails though during the summer until probably we start getting pretty close to the start of school, and then we'll kick that back up again. Dr. Thomas, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think you're right on. We will communicate, and maybe in June, at the end of June, we can just send a quick update of anything that may be happening, or any of the considerations that we have. As we get direction from the governor and from our commissioner, anything that's going to affect the school year, we will definitely get word out. If by any chance we make a decision to affect the school calendar in some way, that's definitely going to come out sometime in June, so that parents can plan accordingly. I had talked about this with the leadership team. I really wanted to send out a survey to our parents, but I didn't want to create any unnecessary unrest. So I'm gonna wait until we have more solid plans in place, and we get again some direction from the governor whether or not schools are actually going to be open or not.
Yeah, and I would just say, obviously just continue to watch your emails during the summertime. If you see something from us, open it. It's probably fairly important. But we'll try to not overwhelm you with things. Melanie says she has a question. So Melanie, if you want to unmute yourself and ask your question.
Yes. Has there been any talk or discussion or about like the dual language programs, and how like going forward what the new classroom will look like and how those programs could be impacted? Of course, hearing, dual language, that language every day in the classroom or every other day is a big impact as far as learning, and without that being remote and all virtual, could have a big impact. Has there been any discussion about that?
Dr. Sermani, you want to address that one?
Yes, ma'am. Just like I said earlier, the impact on the students varies from one end to the other. The language acquisition of especially the oral language of being able to listen and being able to speak, probably has an outsized impact compared to maybe just a monolingual English class that the kids are already hearing English at home. So once again, you're looking at the broad situation is what do you do to adjust the curriculum, and some kids are going to catch up faster than others. And then again, you also have a group of kids that need just flat out more time. So yes, we have been thinking about that and how we want to approach that. So we have the one approach that will affect most kids, and then we got to figure out how do we affect those kids that's just not enough for.
Okay, sorry, I have an additional question to that. Has it been discussed as far as like teachers even I don't know, like recording lessons in that language and putting it out, or some type of communication that way, so then at least the student can hear like they would usually. Because as far as like the videos and that type of thing, sure, that helps, but it's so different compared to being in the classroom, you know, for several hours and hearing that second language, and how a big impact that could be.
Yeah. Most definitely, that is something that we actually talked about yesterday, is being able to record the lessons, or even, you know, kids to log on to live instruction, kind of like what we're doing now. It doesn't substitute for, again, being face-to-face, but that is definitely one of the options to consider. All of our teachers are getting new technology devices this summer, so they'll be able to access a few more features on their devices that will facilitate all the video and all of the virtual interaction with kids.
I'll just add that I was going to add just the one of the lessons learned during all this online pandemic is, and I'm a parent also, and so many of you parents may have had the same experience of, it was nice when my son would come home, I would come home and he'd have online learning he was doing, and I'd say, I don't understand what you're doing. Why are you doing this? And I'd say, show me. And so he'd actually pop on the computer and I could actually read the teacher's directions and see an example and go back and say, no, you're not doing it right. We need to do this differently. And for the parents who had the capacity and were able to access what the teacher was actually asking and be able to support their kids at night was one of the lessons we've learned, and we're going to try to carry forward. We're not expecting parents to have to teach their kids in the evening, but for those parents who wanted to see, well, exactly what are you doing? And what are you supposed to be doing? It was a very powerful tool for those parents who want to be able to do that. And especially when you're talking about dual language and you're talking about a parent who doesn't speak Spanish, you have an opportunity to go on there to see instructions potentially in English and also be able to play what the Spanish is supposed to sound like. So I think there's an opportunity to gain from that in supporting all parents, but you know, dual language parents especially.
Yep.
Okay. And David, I think you'd asked the question earlier, and Dr. Sermani already got the answer and typed it into the chat about senior grades. They're due from teachers May 22nd, and they will be posted soon after, but any senior in danger of not graduating will be contacted prior to that. If anyone's concerned about their senior grading, please contact Hutto High School. Okay, Ashley says, if policy will allow it, there are parents such as myself that would be happy to lead tutor groups for students. I may need a test assessment to see what levels I qualify to help, but I'm crushing with my fourth grader. That's great. Let's see. Kirsten says custodians at all the campuses are amazing. Yes, they are. Our custodians are absolutely amazing. Katisha says, last time we met, there was a question about a virtual option for parents who are concerned about sending their children to school. Is that still on the table if we reopen in the fall?
Yes, I can tell you that that is definitely on the table, because we know that there's going to be different family dynamics and family situations, and even just health conditions for kids. And so that is definitely part of all of the plans that we are considering for parents to have that virtual option. We're even looking at assigning a certain group of faculty on a K-12 continuum that are part of this virtual offering for kids who may never, not never, but for this coming year until there's a vaccine, or until there's, you know, absolute certainty that those children with medical conditions can come back. We are even looking at that. So yes, it's on the table, and once we are ready to roll something out, we will let you know what those options are for the virtual instruction.
Okay. There's no other questions currently waiting. Oh, here we go. Are we expanding summer meal option?
Right now, the answer is no. That is something that I talked to Anna Martin, our school nutrition director, yesterday, and right now we do not have plans to expand summer meal option. Now, on the regular schedule, summer meals are going to be provided out of Curley Elementary because that was our quote, our summer school site. So meals will be served out of Curley Elementary. But as far as the drive-up option that we have at Cottonwood Creek and Nadine Johnson, right now, as of today, there are no plans. The last day for meals is going to be May 22nd, and then there'll be a short break, and then we'll start the meals out of Curley sometime in June. I don't have the exact date, but we'll get that out in the parent letter as well.
I think Henry did it.
Yeah, I guess I'll talk to your microphone.
No, I muted myself.
Okay.
Go ahead.
The governor announced yesterday too that the USDA is sending the Texas Department of Ag additional funding, and parents will be getting some type of benefit where they can go purchase meals in lieu of our child nutrition meals coming through the reimbursement program when we're not in operations. I don't know how long that is going to be. It's my understanding it's about $250 per child, and it's a one-time event to help parents who may be in situations that are needing that type of assistance at least through the rest of May and into the early summer. So if you have qualified in the past, presumably the Texas Department of, when I say qualified, if you were receiving the opportunity to access reimbursement meals, you'll be getting something through the state.
Okay. A question about, are we still planning on having the summer camps? Henry, do you want to speak to that one too?
Well, we haven't canceled them yet. The camps, we have not canceled them, but I'm beginning to lose hope that we're going to have the option to offer them. The coaches are just itching to get out there, and they bring me plans all the time. Why do we just do it outside and we keep everybody separated? And so it's not so much, being able to follow the social distancing guidelines is really having the ability to say that we can use our school facilities. So just hang tight for those questions. Again, it's not looking very hopeful, but we are holding on. We have not canceled the camps. Just in case, by a slim chance, we're able to offer them in some limited capacity. I don't know that we're going to be able to use our gyms and the weight rooms like we had in the past, but hopefully maybe we'll be given some flexibility to offer camps if we keep them outdoors and we don't allow kids to come anywhere near inside. But they have to use the bathrooms, so there's just lots of questions with that.
Same holds true for the YMCA. The same holds true for the summer rec programs of the city of Hutto and the YMCA. These are very important programs, I know, for parents over the summer. And I have guided, or I've directed the city of Hutto and the YMCA to continue the planning, but it follows the same logic that Dr. Thomas just outlined.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. David, thanks again to Hutto High School for having a graduation ceremony at the stadium. Makes up for seniors missing prom, military ball, senior trip, etc. Do you want to talk a little bit about that, Dr. Thomas? I think it's, just to give everybody a little feel for even how we arrived there and then why we had to make some decisions we had to make regarding like ticket limits and whatnot.
Right. Well, on a personal level, I've always been a fan of having outdoor graduations on home territory. That's just, Selena's preference. However, we are still not allowed to have any type of indoor activity. So the one option for graduation was to have it outside, and what better place than our own home stadium. Our limitations are that the capacity at that stadium is barely 5,000, and 5,000, we're even kind of padding that just a tad. And so when you look at a 25% capacity for that stadium, and you look at the fact that you have 500 graduates, you've got to limit the seating. Our security people have already been out to the stadium, and they've been kind of taking an average size of a person, so to speak, and kind of taping off like 6 feet between family units. And we're barely going to make it. We were hoping that as the governor released some of the restrictions, that we would go to 50% capacity so that we could give the kids 4 tickets. But if we gave the kids 4 tickets, it's going to be very difficult to keep 6 feet between family units. So we're kind of limited. We may be able to go to 3 tickets. I don't know that we can push the 4. We would really be cutting it extremely close if we went that way. But nonetheless, we're going to live stream it. It's going to be on the Jumbotron. So, it's unfortunate that we have to limit the ticket sales, and I know the graduates are having to make difficult decisions about who they give their tickets to, especially with blended families. But the kids are extremely happy, and we've got to remember that the ceremony is for them. They haven't seen each other in 8 weeks, couple of months, 2.5 months. So for them, it's going to be the opportunity to be back with all of their senior friends. So we're going to try to make it as special as possible, and bring closure to their senior year.
Yeah, and we've got a couple of surprises also at the end of the ceremony for them too.
Yes.
That'll be it's going to be, yeah, it'll be.
We won't ruin the surprise.
No, we're not. I will tell you to also be watching as you drive by the front of Hutto High School in the next few days, or maybe early next week. We have another fun surprise that we're going to unveil for the seniors. Okay, from Terrence, any direction from UIL for activities in the fall?
None. There is some talk of, the kids didn't get to do their spring camp, the spring football camp. So there is talk of giving the kids some flexibility to come in and work out during the month of July. Once again, that's going to have to be with a whole lot of restrictions, but no direction yet. Every now and then, every few days or so, whenever another state opens up competition, I get a text from Coach LaPlante. Hey, Indiana is allowing competition, and Nebraska is allowing competition. And so if Indiana can do it, do you think Texas can? And so we're all just waiting. But I think as more and more states open up their athletic activities, we get more and more hopeful. Can you imagine Texas without a football season? I don't know. Might be a first ever. But the simple answer to that question, no definite direction.
I will say this, another thing that's been talked about is would they play football but not let fans be in the stands, or limit again to 25% or whatever in the stands. And there's a lot of folks, me included, that are saying if they do that, the UIL has always had a rule that you cannot broadcast a Friday night high school football game. We can audio broadcast it. Obviously, I do the radio for the games, but we can't do the video for games live on Friday nights. UIL's always had that rule. But if they go to a thing this year that limits folks being in the stadium, then I'm sure hoping that they're going to change that rule, that we will at least be able to live stream those Friday night games. They would almost have to change that and allow us to do that. We might do it anyway, even if they say no. So, okay. David has said, when will the 2 tickets be given to students, and will there be a rehearsal for this? The high school is communicating all of that with the seniors and their parents. At this point, David, that there will not be a rehearsal because they're not allowed to have a rehearsal. But all of the students will come up on that day before. I think it's that Thursday, the 4th, to pick up their tickets and to kind of have a view of what things are going to look like for that Friday night. But it won't be a rehearsal because we can't have a rehearsal. So.
Yeah. So Mr. Christian is working on the graduate lineup so that parents will know what side of the stadium the kids will be seated. So they'll be, so parents will know whether they sit on the visitor side or on the home side, depending on the alpha split. And this will also allow the guests to park either on the visitor side or on the home side. So that's another way we're gonna kind of mitigate that whole parking situation.
Yeah. And Dr. Thomas just typed in the chat, and I'm only clarifying this because this is all saved and recorded and shared. She said we'll go out during rehearsal in a couple of weeks, but it's not a rehearsal because we're not allowed to have a rehearsal. So we just want to be clear that we're not having a rehearsal for our graduation. Okay.
Mr. Christian is going to probably have the kids come out to the stadium to pick up the ticket so that he can give them a view of how it's going to take place. But he'll arrange that. He'll probably have the kids come out in alpha groups and just have to explain the process a couple of times. So he doesn't have 500 kids all out there at once.
Correct.
One of the features I see Chief Collins on the screen, and one of the things that we were really heartbroken about with the graduation is that we've always had our ROTC kids do the presentation of the colors, and they've received orders that they can't, the kids aren't allowed to participate, and that's just extremely sad. But our fire department is going to send their color guard over to do the presentation of the colors for graduation. So it won't be our kids, but at least we'll have our own firefighters doing that.
And for any senior parents that are on, like David, I would say just be sure you're paying really close attention to the communication coming from Hutto High School about that, because they will be, there's going to be some very specific guidelines as to which side students will be on, therefore which side their parents will be sitting on in the stands, which then will also mean which side you park on. Because there won't be any, when it's all over with, there won't be any mingling. We have to keep folks separated, this side, that side, just for the purposes of distancing. So just be sure you're really paying close attention to the communication coming from Hutto High School on that. I don't have any other questions that are queued up. Does anybody else have anything that they would like to ask or say? Kristen Smiley, are you trying to ask a question?
Oh, I think something's happening there. I don't know what.
Okay.
Hi.
I unmuted you, Kristen.
Oh, well, he unmuted us. You could ask. Sonia wanted to know, ask Chief Collins, did the cadets get their sashes and their cords? No good.
The thumbs up, yes.
Collins, and I missed you. And presented them, we presented them on the 4th in front of the Hippo. So we did a picture of every senior at the Hippo, Mr. Gordon, and they got their codes yesterday to get their free picture package.
Awesome. Good.
Great. Thank you, Chief.
Thank y'all.
Anybody else have a question or a comment before we close? We have this until 10 o'clock. It cuts off automatically at 10 o'clock, but we can.
Oh my goodness, it does?
Yeah, it shuts off at exactly 10. So, but we still have 15 minutes if anybody has anything else.
I think I see Keith on the screen as well. Keith Reynolds from technology, and just to all of our parents, our technology team has just rocked it during this entire closure and the change of plans, and being available not just to our staff but to all of our kids and our parents who needed help navigating their Chromebooks and accessing Google Classroom. So Keith, just know that we are deeply indebted to that entire tech team and really proud of the work that y'all are doing.
Thank you.
That did remind me, we will, and be sure you pay if you have a Chromebook or if your student has a Chromebook, be sure and pay really close attention to next week's parent communication we send out, because there will be the dates and times of when those Chromebook returns will take place. We're basically going to just kind of reverse what we did when you picked them up. They're all going to be returned to Hutto High School, and it'll be May the 26th, 27th, 28th, 29th, I believe. We were going to do that Monday, but then realized that's Memorial Day. So that Tuesday through Friday, but there's very specific times that those will be returned. So be sure that you're paying attention to that. And the times are not going to be, it's not going to be slotted based on alpha letter or anything like that. It's just the technology folks, when they set it up, they tried to put various times, different times on different days, just to try to help accommodate people's schedules. So if you can't do it in the morning, you can do it in the afternoon on a different day or whatever. So, but yeah, we'll have over 3,000 Chromebooks that have to be returned in that 4-day period.
So I guess another piece, I should have mentioned this at the beginning, a big instructional decision that we have made for the entire district is that in the fall, every 6th through 12th grade student will receive a Chromebook that they will keep for the entire year. So come August, whenever we start, those children will have a Chromebook assigned to them that comes home, goes home and goes to school every day. So that's going to be, quote, their textbook. And we wanted to do that because, again, we expect intermittent closures next year. At the elementary level, the kids will also have a Chromebook assigned to them, but that Chromebook will stay in the classroom. We're not going to expect our elementary kids to take them home and bring them back and forth every day. But in the event, again, that we should have to close, the Chromebooks are already assigned to the kids. Their ID number will be tied to a Chromebook number, and it'll go home, be able to go home at a moment's notice. So this had been part of our technology plan, and we were actually going to roll out the one-to-one initiative next year. Yeah, the next year in the fall of 2021, we were going to start with the 9th grade kids at the 9th grade center. But in light of what has happened, we're going to accelerate that process. So again, to our technology team, not only are they going to have to bring back all the 3,200 Chromebooks that are out, those have to be cleaned, sanitized, re-imaged, and then ready for distribution again in August. So that's coming to you courtesy of Hutto ISD, and just moving ahead and trying to be prepared. And luckily, because of the bond that we passed last May of August of 19, those are the funds that we're using to purchase additional devices, so that we have one for every single child in the district. And then again, our instructional staff, they're also getting brand new updated top of the line devices for their instructional use as well. So your tax dollars at work and used for a really top-notch important purpose.
And their tax dollar, bond dollars are at work already in the elementary schools too, right? We've already started some construction and remodeling projects.
Yes, those are underway.
Yeah, and furniture refresh. And so, yeah, I guess a silver lining is the shutdown allowed us to get a jump start on some of those projects instead of having to wait for school to end. So, well, I don't see any other questions. Obviously, this will be our last table talk before the end of, until school is out. Not sure, we don't have one planned for the summer, probably won't do one in the summer, but we might decide that it's worthwhile to fire one up maybe in July.
August.
In
Yeah.
July or August. So obviously keep your ears and eyes open for that. I for our teachers that are on this right now, thank you guys for all that you have done during
Yes.
these last 2 months. Y'all have been amazing. Just the way everybody had to just pivot and start doing something that we'd never done before. And to our parents, you guys also have just been spectacular. And thank you for all the grace that you've shown us as we've had to try to navigate all of this this newness. So
Yeah.
Makes us very proud to be part of Hippo Nation, for sure.
Yep. And thank you. We've got 2 board members online. I can see Miss Billy LaJudas, and I know I saw a question from Terrence Owen. So our president and our vice president are online. I don't know if we have anybody else. I don't want to leave anyone out, but thank you for joining us this morning, Ms. LaJudas, Mr. Owens.
And we did record this, so we'll get it uploaded probably either later today or tomorrow. We'll post it on our Facebook page. So if you want to refer back to it or share it with other folks, then it'll be there. So, all right, everybody, thank you all so much for joining. We didn't quite hit 40. We had 39 people, which is, we've set a new record for Table Talk. So we'll shoot for more than 40 next time. Everybody have a great rest of the week. And we'll see you soon. Bye.
Okay, thank you.